everyone, I'm Lucy.
And I'm Tamoor.
And we are back at it again with another Westworld breakdown, this time for Season 2, Episode 3, Virtù e Fortuna.
An attempt was made there.
I'm not great with languages, I'm very sorry.
But before we get into that, if you haven't already checked out our YouTube page, youtube.com/GameSpotUniverse, you should, because we've got plenty of Westworld coverage there. We've got theories, we've got a recap of Season 1, we've got breakdowns of every episode so far. So if you're just catching up, head on over there and we'll get you caught up to speed in no time.
But before we continue with this video, please make sure you've seen the latest episode of Westworld, because we're going to spoil and analyze the crap out of it. We're back on Symbol Watch.
It's back, baby.
So in last week's episode, we were talking about, back with our notes, we talked about this symbol. We went through, we Googled.
You went through it.
And people are going mad.
They are.
That symbol definitely means something. So I thought at the top end of this episode, we discussed it a little bit more. So we said that it was the symbol for distilled vinegar, very similar to the Jerusalem cross. Some other people have found that it is a symbol used on Greek vases from 700 BC, used in certain types of cartography as a sign indicating stone bottom at a water's edge. Which is very interesting because the whole thing about this season of Westworld is all the water in the new opening credits and the fact that there is this sea that has just appeared. What is the stone at the bottom of that sea? Dead host waiting to be reanimated?
Perhaps.
Perhaps. There have also been other sightings. 4 dots are it's like the starting point to draw a 3-point labyrinth.
Hold the phone.
No, so like, if that's not weird enough, right? Mosdef Stoned, what a great username, discovered on this YouTube channel where this woman is drawing this 3-point labyrinth, they only have 2 videos uploaded. Both explain how to make a maze. The first video was uploaded 3 years ago, exactly to the day of the Season 2 premiere. And the second video was uploaded exactly 1 week later. Like, this is...
Things that make you go,
I was like, are you serious?
Picking up on the 4 dots, we see them somewhere else. Logan, when he's getting crunk, getting lit, taking drugs.
His e-heroin.
He's electronic heroin. You can see the 4 dots on his arm.
4 dots, back at it again.
Which is interesting.
Are we reading too much into this?
We might
Possibly.
be.
There is more to that symbol.
Yeah.
We're on Symbol Watch.
We're gonna
baby.
see it. Symbol Watch.
It's actually not in this episode, or at least I couldn't see it.
Symbol Watch continues.
Symbol Watch. Outside the works of Stephen King, I'm not particularly well read in my classics. So when I saw the episode title,
Virtù e Fortuna.
Yeah, I'm just gonna get you to say it. Went down a bit of a rabbit hole again, because it is a Machiavellian principle, and I have never read The Prince. He wrote a critical essay about the relationship between virtue and fortune, and the role of free will. So virtue, as Machiavelli thought it was the human energy / action that stands in opposition to fortune. So virtue is drive, talent, it's ability, it's you working towards an achievement of a goal.
Perhaps like someone like Dolores, maybe?
Yeah, or Maeve, or literally any one of them. Fortune, however, is obviously luck, it's circumstance, they are the things outside of your control. So Machiavelli thought there was this great divide between the two, that they were opposing forces. Also, interestingly, fortune was sometimes depicted as a water wheel.
Ooh.
Because you would kind of rise up and everything's going great for you, and then next second, completely fail.
Yeah.
So that's interesting, and that's basically where the episode title comes from.
Yeah. It makes sense very thematically.
They love a good thematic tie-in, don't they?
So the episode begins in a amalgamation of what is like Bangladesh and India, and like it seems like more focused around hunting.
Yes.
So the desires that people are fulfilling here is killing Bengal tigers, which is not on.
Don't do
that. So we're introduced to 2 characters, a female character, a new female character who you've kind of figured out is called
Grace.
I was about to say Angela.
Nope. So the thing about Grace is, so the reason they don't actually mention her by name anywhere, I had to actually I don't actually think she's in the end credits. I think I found it on IMDb, or like there was a bunch of stuff about the actress becoming a new series regular. She is called Grace. But the thing about it is clearly the people at Westworld Joy and Nolan throwing some kind of red herring because
Yeah.
Grace has a lot of the mannerisms, very similar accent to, of course, Teresa. It was the smoking that really got me because Teresa is famously like one of the few characters that smoked and did so very deliberately. It was very much part of her
And
character.
it was very much like, there was a lot of flair to it.
Yeah,
and she
very-
had that as well, which is why it threw us off quite a bit. But then we have another lad, a peeping lad, Nicholas. Who's keeping his eye on Grace.
He was in the credits. He was in the credits.
So he's like, all right, I'm gonna go and flirt it up with this lady. They have a conversation. But what's interesting here is they try to interrupt this meeting.
Yeah.
So we have someone walk over and say like, yeah,
The governor would like to
would like to
speak
see you.
to
And he's like, no, I'm all right, thanks. Then they mention like, that it's almost as if they're trying to keep us apart.
Which is very, very strange for a number of reasons. Because A, why would you go to Westworld $40,000, well, Hunting World,
Yeah.
$40,000 a day to not interact with the host,
Yeah.
to deliberately track down another human being?
Yeah.
And also the thing is like, the park, you're supposed to be able to do whatever the hell you want. Why would they
Stop that.
actively try and intervene while you're trying to do whatever the hell you want?
Yeah, unless it's just like a quest line or a story just naturally was supposed to intersect with his or
Maybe.
hers, and this is kind of like trying to get that back on track, but it doesn't make sense. It feels like they're trying to keep them apart on purpose. Grace has a notebook with her, which she kind of flips it over to make sure.
Slow zoom in on this shot for a long time.
There's a symbol on there, which we'll see again later.
Yeah, there is a symbol on there, but also there is a kind of compass that helps to place where the park is. So they're like pointing north is off to the left. So if you rotate it round, it's on the.
It looks like it's on the west side.
Yeah, if Westworld is here, then this is west of Westworld.
West
yeah,
of
you're-
Westworld, yeah.
I'm not good at geography either.
Neither am I. I can tell you about sedimentary rock, but that's about it.
Shout out also to the music in this section. We get another modern day song with a
remix.
Westworld twist. We've got Seven Nation Army, which is super cool. And we also have like a remix of the Sweetwater theme.
Yeah.
But with, I guess, like a
Like
sitar and
flair
it's
and
like,
an Indian vibe to it. It's very good.
I'm so
desperate for this
excited for the
soundtrack.
soundtrack.
Yeah. So then they go out on a hunt together, but immediately things are wrong. And Grace figures this out very quickly because she has clearly got some experience.
She has a lot of knowledge about the park, so she's not only, they're keeping us apart, blah, 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 but she says there should be hosts here to entertain us. And yet there are none.
There's none, yeah. So she clearly has either done this a whole bunch of times or has got some knowledge through some other means or placing it. And she figures out people are dead, and immediately we have a lad appear and
That famous phrase, these violent delights have violent ends.
appears, which is interesting that it appears here.
Yes, so we also get a look in this whole segment. It's another cold open, actually. I wonder if this is a big thing they're doing for season 2, the cold opens. But it's like, there are clearly park lines. They said in episode 1, like, you shouldn't be able to cross park lines. Are Delos stupid enough to have one system for everything? Or has something else happened?
Yeah.
Because I think something else happened. At the end of episode 1, we thought Bernard said, British. We thought he said, he killed them all. General consensus seems to think that he says, I killed them all.
Yeah.
And according to apparently the HBO subtitles, it does say that. I'm still on the fence, because this next scene is clearly straight after that. He's still with Strand, and no one says to him, oh, are you going to tell us why you killed everyone?
Yeah.
So I feel like there's something else there. Also, when I mentioned earlier, something has happened in the general to break the whole system. Mailing says, someone took out the cradle. What the hell's the cradle?
It's a map from GoldenEye on N64.
Brilliant. I mean, it is, it's a great map. But, interestingly, Googling Westworld cradle, you get Elon Musk. The billionaire, head of SpaceX, Tesla, all that
If
stuff.
that isn't ominous, I don't know what it is.
So, when they were debuting season 2 of Westworld at South by Southwest this year, the Elon Musk was there, of course, and he said a very interesting thing. So he's quoted as saying, there's a guy, Konstantin Stolyovsky, who said, the Earth is the cradle of humanity, but mankind cannot stay in the cradle forever. I feel like wondering if the cradle is maybe like the center of everything to do with the host world.
Yeah, I think like it's some sort of core functioning unit for the entire thing.
Yeah.
Which is why everyone's like, uh-oh.
It's the MCP from Tron.
Yeah, it's basically that. Bernard says the network is down.
The network is
They
down.
they grab Rebus, reprogram him to be cool dude Rebus.
Virtù is Rebus.
Because he's got Abernathy kind of captured.
He's got him taken hostage.
Yeah.
So the network is down. Is that something that Charlotte did? Or is that, no, and that must be something that Delos did as part of their communication.
Yeah, the lockdown process, yeah.
Or could it have something to do with the cradle, have Delos sort of turn that down as well?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Effectively, we know that he's still got a means to access hosts and retrieve information, or
but only if he does it
them.
locally.
He needs to do it locally. He's got to stick that USB in the wrong way around once.
And then we get some Peter Abernathy time. He starts singing.
Mine eyes have seen the glory of the coming of the Lord.
Yep.
So the song that he sings is the Battle Hymn of the Republic. We're not going to do a rendition.
I am.
No. It's an American patriotic song. Everyone will obviously recognize it.
It's very familiar. So the Battle Hymn of the Republic is a song that links judgment of the wicked to the end of the Civil War in America, effectively. Judgment being a huge theme of the series. We've heard Man in Black talk about it.
Dolores, Teddy. Everyone loves a bit of judgment.
So it's
in this
like
season.
a great choice for a song.
New location time.
I love the name of this location, first of all.
Really happy name. What is it? Fort Forlorn Hope.
It's just like a sad dog.
Also, we finally get to see Colonel Brigham, who, talking about Lost, is the Marshal from Lost, who was the guy who was arresting Kate and transporting her from Sydney to LAX. So he gets to meet up with Dolores and all that lot. Interestingly, Dolores introduces herself as Wyatt.
Why?
I am guessing that is less of a person. Well, it could be a personality thing, but it also could be a notoriety thing because Wyatt has been such a fixture in sort of like the dark side of Westworld for so long that it's probably easier for her to get what she wants if she just is like, "Hi, I'm Wyatt."
She's in that persona as well, so it may just be she is embodying Wyatt at that point.
We finally get a nice little crossover bit where they give the modern day gun to the guy, to Brigham, and he's like, what the hell is this?
It's a P90, my dude. If you pick that in Counter-Strike, you are on for a good time.
Also, I'd like to say this point because we get to see a lot of Angela at this point. What is going on with her head?
Yeah.
So, for some reason, when I first saw that, I was like, oh, is that like a crown of thorns? Very, very Jesus-y, very in keeping with all the religious symbology that we've been seeing throughout the season. But I feel like maybe it's something more. I was talking to our friend Angela at the weekend. Talking to Angela about Angela. Hi, Angela. And she said something about like, it looks like she's lost the top of her head and is like stapled it back together with some kind of barbed wire.
Yeah, she looks like she's been put back together a bit.
Yeah, so has something happened with her light bulb brain?
Yeah, maybe that's it.
Maybe it's something to do with the maze, like in the scalp.
She had a quick look and was like, this is not good.
There is something about it. I feel we're gonna get an answer about what the hell happened to her head soon.
I hope we do, because it's freaking me out.
Sizemore, comic relief, love it. More of that, please.
Along with Sizemore and the donkey are Hector and Maeve. They're on a journey together. So they're crossing a stream.
And then
we have an appearance from the Ghost Nation.
The Ghost Nation. So at this time as well, like Maeve starts to have these flashbacks to her old rancher life. And if you freeze frame it just right, because I was watched the credits, and a Ketchta appeared in the credits. I was like, I do not remember seeing you. He's the guy who was stalking Maeve through his window. So interestingly that obviously we know he was a host from last episode, but now we can actually place him within the park.
Yeah.
So good spot, me.
So they have, support what you create. They have a bit of a parlay, and we learned
Great use of parlay.
We learned that Hector can speak Ghost Nation.
Yes, so we always knew that he was in with them, but I didn't realize to what extent.
So they say some stuff, and the Ghost Nation effectively say, if you carry on, you're cool, but we want the donkey man.
But what else is interesting here is that Maeve tries to use her voice commands, her iPhone voice commands, and it just straight up doesn't work.
Although it looked like it worked on him for a second. But like that could be, maybe we're reading into that a bit too much because it felt like, all right, he stopped. But then.
So I mean, not only is she shook from having these flashbacks because he's the guy who scalped her, but she's also shook because she realizes that she's not as powerful as she thought she was.
So this is introducing the idea of consequence for Maeve. Until now, she's been basically unstoppable, and she's come to believe she's unstoppable. meeting the Ghost Nation and having that failure of issuing a command and it not working is the first real chink in her armor. So now she knows there are consequences and there are stakes for me as well within this world.
Abernathy is flitting through his personalities. He's having his little, I guess, circuit meltdown as well.
Yeah.
He says something interesting. He says, "Affliction is a treasure, and scarcely any man hath enough of it." To Google I went. It is from Meditation 17 by John Donne. So if you know the phrase, "For whom the bell tolls, no, not it tolls for thee." It's the kind of like the essay, the prose that is from. So that is from Devotions Upon Emergent Occasions, which is...
Very catchy name.
Catchy name. It was Elizabethan. I mean, I'm sure they had that, they enjoyed that.
Yeah.
Basically, John Donne was very, very sick and he thought he was dying, so what he did was he wrote a series of prose, like different meditations, based on what he was feeling and what he was thinking at the time, and each prose covered one day of his sickness. I think there was 23 altogether. This is from 17, and this is a very, very interesting one, especially when you link it to the context of Westworld, because Don is hearing a church bell toll, and back then, hearing a church bell would signify that something bad is happening to someone else, either a funeral, someone's died, and he thinks that the bell is tolling for him, but when, in reality, it could be tolling for anyone because he sees that everyone is connected. His general thought is that everyone is linked to everyone else, and when something bad happens to one person, it happens to everyone. He uses a phrase, "no man is an island." So yeah, basically read more into Meditation 17 if you want, but I do not think it is a coincidence that he picked that to say, because it's obviously promoting the fact that all the hosts are connected. No man is an island, everyone has some connection to everyone else. Everyone else.
Meditation 18 is also a banger.
Anyway, when Dolores and Peter are together, Peter once again busts out the King Lear. So back in season 1, episode 1, when he sees the photograph and starts to kind of break down and glitch out at the end of the first episode, he says, he quotes from King Lear, he says, "When we are born, we cry that we are come to this great stage of fools." So I don't think it's any coincidence that he quotes King Lear again here.
So he says, "I am bound upon a wheel of fire, that mine own tears do scald like molten lead." That is a very prophetic.
But King Lear is a tragedy, and it's often described as Shakespeare's best tragedy, and one of the best tragedies ever written. It depicts King Lear and his gradual descent into madness because he has a kingdom, he divides it up, gives it to his daughters, however his daughters sort of betray him and don't actually love him. And it's
there's all this stuff where him not being able to recognize people and failing to make connections with people who he should know, which, as we can see here, Abernathy, Dolores, Teddy, there's a lot of misconnections happening here, so the King Lear thing kind of feeds into that as well. Maeve, not skipping a beat, immediately sees a vulnerability and strikes.
Yeah, we talked about this last week, but it is in her programming that she can just cut to the core of you.
So she very quickly figures out that Hector is effectively what Sizemore wanted to be after a bad breakup. So
I think that's a really cool bit of not only character explanation for Sizemore, but it's just a really cool bit of like the world that you maybe didn't really think about, is that these people must be in some way based on real people.
Yeah, exactly. It's the idea of putting yourself in your art. And because Sizemore has always been treated as this kind of like, just a throwaway writer type, buffoon type, but this is a moment of vulnerability for him that shows you he's put himself into this world, and it kind of develops two characters simultaneously in a very meaningful way, which is it's one of my favorite scenes in Westworld so far, and I really, really enjoyed it. So there's a revelation that Sizemore had a rough breakup, and kind of like he brought himself into the narrative, into the Westworld as Hector. That's pretty much like the end of that scene there.
Well, I don't know, I think there's a very telling bit with Maeve, where she talks about how sad it is that Sizemore's written himself in. And then she says, I suppose holding hands is pretty sad too.
Oh yes.
Which is like, do you really love Hector? Or we talked about this as well, like their relationship seems a bit weird. Is she just doing this so she's got him on side?
Yeah, she's very manipulative. So who knows what Hector is being put through right now.
Poor Hector.
Poor Hector. Back again in Fort Forlorn Hope, the Sadness Town. We have Bernard's fateful meeting with Dolores, and Dolores is putting the whammy on him. Bernard's in a bad way, and she's kind of there to really dunk on him when he's down.
Yeah, she's like, you don't know who you're based on, do you?
Yeah.
I wonder if there's any of him in you. So we've been theorizing for a while that maybe there is some of Arnold in him, but is there any of Ford in anyone?
Yeah, so this is kind of like Bernard's moment where he's forced to. He's been not avoiding, but like he seems to be skirting around the idea that he's not completely human.
Or at
for
least
ages.
himself.
Yeah,
or-
himself. And this is kind of like you're forced to face this, and Dolores is kind of like the agent that's making that happen. Eventually, we have Dolores taking Bernard to see Papa Abernathy, and effectively Dolores saying like, "Can you fix him for me, please?"
Well, it's a very interesting way that she phrases it, where she's like, it's an honest request, it's not a demand. Which makes me think that I think Maeve's words from the last episode, where Maeve was like, you want freedom, so you're gonna have to let me pass.
Yeah.
Are they getting to her? Is she kind of realizing, or maybe it's kind of guilt because she knows what she's about to do to all the Confederados. She's about to kill all those people for her own gains. Maybe she is still complicated and she does still have feelings.
I think that's the important. The other important thing is like, for both Maeve, in the same way that Maeve was, kind of like forced to come to terms with the idea that there are stakes and she does care about things in the world. It's the same for Dolores. So Dolores has been on like a war path right up until she sees her dad.
Yeah.
And then it kind of, everything comes to a crashing halt.
Well, her dad is basically Maeve's daughter.
Yeah.
In sort of like this, they both have that anchor.
Yeah, so this is the first thing to kind of really split her focus and kind of give her something else to think about beyond just, I need to get to this place and tear it all down and do my business, which is really interesting. And she's leaning on Bernard now to do that. And she's coming to terms with the idea that she can't just be a bulldozer if she wants
the
anything.
baddies?
Yeah. Are we the bad guys? So that's a really interesting like about turn for her character, a new kind of layer to her character that has been missing for a bit.
Armistice is back, and she's got a flamethrower.
This to me was a reference to, I took it as a reference to Game of Thrones. A blonde lady with a dragon.
Yeah, Hector saying she has a
HBO?
dragon. HBO. Mate, if there was a Game of Thrones world.
Crossover. Oh my.
that'd be so
Oh
good.
my. I didn't even take it that far, but if there was a Game of Thrones world, imagine that.
That was super cool. We also get confirmation that, again, you just pointed this out, and my mind is blown. Felix and Sylvester are still
Two
alive.
cartoon cats.
Two cartoon cats, Felix
They're
and
still about.
Sylvester.
Up to no good.
So as Sylvester's there, and he's like, I've got a grenade for you. No, sorry. He's got a grenade under his chin, and Armistice is like full metal
Yeah, she's.
arm. Because is it the post-credits for the end of season 1 where she got her arm stuck in that door and she just like cuts it off. So either she's kind of forced them into at least fitting it for her, because I imagine if they're in this remote place, there would be old parts, because it's not bio-printed, it's very
it's
old
very,
school. So that's really cool. She's got a new arm. Hop's got a brand new arm.
Very Venom Snake. So in Forlorn Hope, we have Bernard trying to fix Papa Abernathy.
So he's hardwired in.
Yeah, as he did earlier.
Yep.
And what happens is Abernathy starts to flip between old roles,
Yes.
and you've gone through and
Freeze
done
framed, so you don't have to.
Yeah.
So the jerry-rigged one that Sizemore and Charlotte made just so we could get on the train is passenger. His narrative is unknown. His genre not applicable. So he's literally just a complete shell of a human being.
just cover up.
Just to cover up to get him on the train.
Yeah.
Which is why I think when he flits into that persona, he just goes, train, I need to get on the train, I need to get on the train.
Yeah.
The other one, Peter Abernathy, is the rancher, is the homesteader storyline, which is where we first saw him when he's Dolores' father. But he also has two other ones that they mentioned. So there's the Professor, which is the horror narrative, which is kind of, I think, when he goes into his Shakespearean quotes, I think that's where the Professor's come
Professor is,
from.
yeah.
His narrative is the dinner party, which I'm quite interested in.
I really want to see this horror dinner party.
Yeah, very red wedding, I imagine. And the other one is the Sheriff hero. It's a general adventure. Interestingly, so last episode we saw Armistice as a sheriff's deputy, and I am wondering if she was his deputy.
Could be.
Which would be a nice little backstory for both of them. And also Dolores and Bernard discover that there is something hidden, a massive file within Abernathy. I don't know why Bernard acted so surprised at that, because he knows that that's what Charlotte is after. So I was quite surprised at that, but you know.
I think the thing that took him back was the encryption key. He was like, damn, this is some hardcore encryption key. So I think the inner nerd within him was like, someone putting some work here.
Password 123.
Yeah.
And while we're doing this, we should also mention that when Bernard is when he's in contact with anything to do with Abernathy in particular. His hand shakes a
vigorously.
lot. And I did wonder if that was a reference to the original Westworld movie, is that the hands would give them away, and Ford references that. He said, yeah, a simple handshake would give them away. So I don't know if it's just reading too much into things or if it's them. There was something going on with his hand. Sector 21. Charlotte meets up with some Delos troops. Interesting to note that they have a device that can scan the base of your
neck
and determine whether you're human or not. Or does that just look for the explosive?
Maybe, yeah, it could be looking for, because that's where all the explosives are.
Yeah, so everyone, like, there is a theory, and I mean, certainly there are things that she's done that make you think that Charlotte might actually be a host. Maybe she is a Delos one without the explosive failsafe in her neck. So maybe that's why she can get around.
And if they were trying to smuggle people out, removing the bomb from the neck is what they focus on.
Maybe she just wants the Abernathy stuff so she can download it into her own brain.
Oh God, what's happening here?
Because we know that Abernathy still has his C6 in his neck, in his C4 in his neck, so maybe. I'm just putting it out there.
It's a theory.
Charlotte's a host. Abernathy still freaking out while Bernard is trying to unencrypt his mind. And he says something, he's back at it again with his literary references. He says, what is the use of a violent kind of delightfulness if there is no pleasure in not getting tired of it? So this is by a poet called Gertrude Stein from works called Tender Buttons, and this poem was called From a Substance in a Cushion. Gertrude Stein, she is the woman who wrote A Rose is a Rose is a Rose, and she's kind of well known for being quite abstract in the way that she uses language, particularly when it comes to describing regular everyday objects. She uses it in a very abstract way. This, from what I could get from this poem, like, please in the comments below tell me how wrong I am about this. It's just basically people are thinking that it's like the underlying undertones of sex, and like she wrote a lot about being a lesbian and just sort of like, but I don't know if it's just a link to the violent delights have violent ends thing, or if it's something else entirely. Honestly, this one,
yeah, it's a bit confusing.
I wish I had more time to delve into this one, but it's interesting to know where she comes from. Her poems were around the late 1800s. I think this work was one of her last works from the early 1900s.
If you see some significance in there that we've missed, let us know.
But enough about literature, because Bernard has cracked it.
He's on it.
He's on it. He's a crack team. And interesting, on the little iPad thing he's got, is that symbol again. Symbol watch.
Symbol watch.
Because this is the one from the beginning of the episode. This is the one from Grace's notebook. The two hexagons overlapping. So I'm interested. Is that symbol for the cradle or some kind of rendezvous point?
I mean, it does look like a cradle, kind of. It's two worlds interlocking.
Yeah, it's like if one of the hexagons represents hunting world and one of them represents Westworld, then the thing in the middle, is that the sea?
Yeah, it could be like an even broader thing where it's just like the virtual, the Westworld and the real world.
Oh,
it's like it could work, and then in the middle is the sea.
Maybe.
It could represent so many things, and it could represent all of them at the same time.
Anyway, so Bernard accesses the file, knows what it is. I assume he downloads it into himself at this point because Peter Abernathy gets taken away. And I don't think he would maybe trust him with that much data now that he knows what it is. And then as the fight between the Delos guards and the Confederados and Wyatt's men is going on outside, Teddy and Dolores decide that they need to go to, well, Dolores decides,
yeah.
They need to go to Sweetwater, but really this is the point where you can tell that Teddy has reached his
breaking
limit.
point, yeah. He's done here.
So after Dolores kills all the Confederados, and Craddock, aka Zussman from Call of Duty World War II, he's like, you're a traitor, blah, blah, blah. He's freaking out. Obviously, he's lost all his men. Dolores just says to Teddy, take him back, kill him.
Like a dog.
Like a dog.
Like the rest of the dogs or something like that. That is ruthless.
But the thing is as well, Craddock has done nothing wrong. He has followed her instructions. She's killed him and brought him back kind of thing. Like, what? I don't understand.
I think Teddy is starting to see the disconnect in Dolores because she's stopped seeing the people around her, even though they're not real people, as people, and has started to look beyond that, and that freaks Teddy out because to him, he's not quite understood that. He hasn't had the same revelations. So the people around him are still people to him. They're not insignificant in the same way they are to Dolores.
So he doesn't kill Craddock, but he thinks he did it without Dolores knowing, but sadly, she was sneaking in, she was watching him do it. What's interesting to me is at the end of episode 1, Teddy was the one who was dead in the water. Is Dolores gonna kill him because of this?
It could also work out because after the Abernathy thing where she appealed to Bernard, there's some vulnerability and there's some like, you know, she's softened slightly.
Well, that's the thing though. She says to him, "You're the only one I have left." But in reality, this could be seen as an act of betrayal. So maybe she kind of just goes full, "I have no one left in this world, I'm gonna kill you too."
Boom.
Gonna gloss over the tiger thing because we saw it earlier on in the episode, but Grace being in the hands of the Ghost Nation, interesting, interesting. I'm very excited to see what's gonna happen there. But come on, that ending.
Samurai!
Samurai!
Finally.
So the thing is I thought that we wouldn't get to Shogun World until episode 5, because episode 5 is called Welcome to Shogun World, or at least that's the episode description.
Yeah.
Either way, oh my god. Was that, it looked like a ninja that he beheaded? I wanted to say it was like one of Wyatt's men because of the covering, but it also could be...
It definitely looked like it definitely looked like a samurai, a ninja type thing. Yeah. But could be one of Wyatt's men. Either way, Shogun World, baby.
Thank you for joining us as we've been nerding out and dissecting this episode of Westworld. Please make sure to comment in the box below. Like, you guys are so fun with your fan theories, and honestly, every Tuesday I just kind of spend my morning going through everything and going, oh my god, why didn't I think of that?
I'm constantly in those comments reading and noting stuff down,
Yeah.
and it's good to have so many people also feeding into the theories and the madness that we're disseminating.
It's not just us.
It's not just us.
Please continue to join us as Symbol Watch continues.
Yeah, Symbol Watch.
Don't forget to subscribe to GameSpot Universe for more content about Westworld. You can find us on Twitter. I'm at Lucy James Games.
I'm at Tamoor H.
And we are so close to Samurai World.
Samurai.
I can taste it. See you next time.